Well, no two ways about it. Times are tough right now. Unemployment in many countries is on the rise. My next guest has written a book that could really help. Between Jobs, a redundancy survival guide, spells out how to get yourself ready for the possibility of losing your job. Or, if that's already happened to you, then the book aims to guide you through turning a loss into a win. Ladies and gentlemen, author Andrew May.
Hello, Steve. How are you?
Hi, Andrew. Thanks for joining us. Look, losing your job can be very traumatic, of course, especially if you get laid off and you never saw it coming.
Yeah, it is, because when you meet someone, one of the fundamental questions we ask people is, so what do you do? So in many ways, our work defines us. But the first thing I like to tell people is work is one of our many facets. And if you lose your job, it doesn't mean you should lose your identity and lose your life. It is just one part of the many different parts in our life. But it is very, very tough. And people go through a range of emotions when they do lose their job. And it's very similar to the stages of grief in sadness or when someone dies. And I call this redundancy remorse. So you find people will move from denial to anger, right through to bargaining, then sadness, and finally acceptance. But it takes a range of time in each of those different phases for everybody after they do lose their job.
Is it worse, perhaps, if you do suspect your job is on the line, because you have to live with that uncertainty, which, of course, could also impact on your home life, couldn't it?
Yeah, look, that's a really, really interesting question, but it's much easier for me to say this than for people to practice. But I implore, even if you think there may be a chance of you losing your job, try and focus on what you can control. So try and still turn up, do a great job, work on your skills, work on your CV in case you have to get that out there. Because if you if you turn up every day in fear, I guarantee most people aren't going to do a great job. Then if redundancies come around, you'll be one of the first people on the firing line. So even though it could be a risk of losing your job, try and focus on the factors you can control. And it's a lot easier to say than do.
So, I mean, that's all the negative sides to it, and of course fear, uncertainty and doubt and so forth. But if you do get laid off, it could also be a positive for you too.
Yeah, for many people, and in researching the book Between Jobs, a number of people kept saying statements like, this was actually a blessing in disguise, or losing my job, while at the time was one of the most traumatic events I've ever been through, in hindsight has actually been a real turning point in my life. And we find that many people are then prompted to change their career, to get better skills, to freshen up their thinking, to freshen up their CV, and it can be a real turning point. So I implore people who are listening to this, who have currently been made redundant, to try and get through it. It is tough. Work through it. Get a support group. There's a lot of strategies you can follow. But just keep in the end of your mind that this could be a real blessing in disguise, even though it may not seem like it is right now.
Okay, well, what are some of the things that people can do to minimise the impact of redundancy on their lives and hopefully turn it into a positive?
The first tip is to communicate. As hard as this is on you and your identity, you must tell family and close friends straight away. The second tip is expect to feel down. And I tell people, live the first week like a bum. The first week after redundancy, you're going to feel terrible. You're going to want to eat pizza, stay up all night watching sport, watching TV. And I really think it's important that people do acknowledge it's a very emotional time. Now, the third tip is to develop a financial battle plan. You can't keep spending the way you were. You can't keep going out and buying new things. And in many cases, sit down with someone qualified, like a financial planner, and get them to work through a battle plan with you on finances. And number 4 is you really need to build a support network. Now, this includes close family members and friends. And I really implore people to go and get an accountability buddy. Now, this is someone who's going to be there to help you through the tough times, but also to help pick you up off your feet and to stop feeling sorry for yourself if it's still 3-6 months down the track. Number 5 is you really have to look after yourself. And again, when you're feeling down, when you're feeling sad, and in some cases, people even go through depression, but it's so important to look after your thoughts, to look after your health, and look after your fitness.
Now, the book has just been launched, hasn't it? So where's it available? It's
available through all good bookstores, and there's a dedicated web page as well where people can order online, which is www.betweenjobs.com.au.
Well, it's a very helpful little book, and unfortunately it's also very timely right at the moment. Thanks for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, Andrew May.
Thank you very much for having me on.